You've seen the pictures, right? World leaders all lined up for that big group photo at the G20 summit. But what if I told you that's just the surface of one of the most powerful and maybe one of the most misunderstood clubs on the entire planet? We're going to go way behind the headlines here to figure out what it really means to have a seat at this incredibly exclusive table. Okay, to really get a handle on this, let's start with some numbers that are just huge. The countries in this group aren't just big players, they are the engine of the world's economy. Together, they're responsible for a mind-boggling 85% of everything the world produces.
And it's not just about the money. Think about the people. The G20 nations are home to the vast majority of us. We're talking 80% of the entire human population lives inside the borders of a G20 country.
And to top it all off, they completely dominate global trade. 3/4 of everything that gets bought and sold across international lines comes from a G20 nation. So yeah, when this group gets together and talks, the world doesn't just listen, it feels the impact in a very real way.
That is some serious weight, economically and demographically. So with that scale in mind, let's get down to basics. What exactly is the G20? So officially, it's the Group of 20. Think of it as the main stage for the heavy hitters of the global economy. It's where the finance ministers and central bank governors from the biggest economies get together. And what's really important is that it includes both the old-school economic powers and the major emerging nations.
You know, the G20 wasn't just created because someone wanted another summit. It was actually forged in crisis. It all started back in 1999 as a way to deal with the Asian financial crisis. But since then, whoa, its mission has totally ballooned. Now the agenda covers pretty much everything: global health, climate change, you name it. Now, here's what's kind of unique about the G20. It's how it's set up. Or maybe how it isn't set up. Unlike the UN, there's no big headquarters building. It's not a permanent institution. The leadership actually rotates between the members every single year, which keeps things fresh. Oh, and a little fun fact. Spain has this special status as a permanent guest. They're always invited. All right, so we've covered the what, the why, and the how. But honestly, that doesn't really capture just how high the stakes are for the countries involved. To really understand the value of being in this club, let's try a little thought experiment. So let's ask that question directly. What is the true value of having that seat? I mean, beyond the prestige, beyond the photo ops, what real, tangible power does it actually give a country? And to figure that out, let's imagine something that sounds almost unthinkable. A member country gets kicked out. Let's use South Africa as our example here, and just walk through what would actually happen if one day they were on the outside looking in. The first thing that would happen, the most immediate hit, wouldn't be political shame. Nope, it would be a full-blown, devastating economic crisis. And it would happen like a horrible chain reaction. First, investment and trade deals with the world's biggest economies, they'd just dry up. Then, access to crucial lifelines from the IMF and the World Bank, gone. That would, of course, crush the domestic economy, especially things like tourism. And ultimately, any big plans for the country's future would just come to a screeching halt. It's a domino effect of disaster. I mean, the difference between being in the club and out of it is just, it's night and day. When you're inside, you get to be part of huge infrastructure projects. You get the economic boost of hosting summits. You get access to debt relief. But on the outside, you lose all of that. You're basically left to handle massive financial crises all on your own. But the damage doesn't even stop with the economy. It builds into an even bigger, arguably more painful problem: losing your voice on the world stage. See, when a country like South Africa is in the G20, it's not just representing itself. It's there as a critical voice for its entire region, fighting for the interests of the African Union in the most important economic room in the world. Now, take that seat away. The whole picture changes. Without that spot at the table, that influence just evaporates. The country, and by extension, the whole continent, is pushed to the sidelines. They become powerless to shape the very global policies that directly impact them. So getting kicked out of the G20 isn't just a loss for one nation. It creates this giant power vacuum. It's like the collective microphone for an entire continent just got unplugged in the world's premier economic forum. So let's tie this all together, right? What our little thought experiment really shows is that the G20 is so much more than just a yearly meeting with a group picture. When you really break it down, being in the G20 is everything. It's a lifeline that helps keep your economy stable. It's a magnet that pulls in investment and trade. It's a critical tool for having real influence on the global stage. And maybe most importantly, it's a platform to help shape the future. It's not just about being in the room, it's about having a say in how the room is designed.
And that brings us to one last big question. As our world seems to get more and more divided, as cooperation frays, is being a member of a powerful club like the G20 no longer just a strategic advantage, but an absolute necessity for a country's survival?